So there I was at my first oncology appointment, feeling very much like I was somebody else and this wasn't happening to me. So I went back and sat and waited for the doctor to come back, and he came in and sat down and asked me what brought me in. And of course I thought, well, gee, I just stopped by to hang out and chit chat and see what it was like to have cancer. Of course I didn't say that, but that's what I thought. So I went on to explain to him why I was there and what the gynecologist had found. And he said that he wanted to do his own colposcopy. So it was off to another exam room to strip and lay on the table. And he came in and put my cervix under the microscope to take a look for himself and turned down the lights. And then suddenly there was a bright green glow from underneath this sheet. And I thought, maybe I'm in a really bad, cheesy sci-fi movie, and at any moment he's gonna pull some alien baby up in the air and say it's a boy. But that didn't happen. So after the exam, he sat down and told me that he did indeed see a significant lesion on my cervix, and that he wanted to schedule me for a what was called a cold cone knife biopsy, which is an outpatient procedure, and they take a biopsy of your cervix to see how far the cancer is spread and what stage. So, about a week later, I went in to have another biopsy done, and I was kind of scared, not so much because of the biopsy, but because I never had any type of surgery, never had to be under anesthesia. So, knowing all the complications that can arise from anesthesia, I was really scared. But fortunately, everything was fine, and I woke up and I went home, and other than a little cramping, I was okay. So, back to more waiting. So then I got the call that I needed to go get a PET scan done because they wanted to see if there was any cancer in any other part of my body. So it was off to get another test done and more waiting. So when I finally had all my tests done and they had all the results back, I went back to see my oncologist, and he sat down to tell me what the results were. And he said that yes, indeed, I did have cervical cancer, that it was stage 3, and that they wanted to do a radical hysterectomy and possibly some radiation or chemo. So he sat there and he told me what the hysterectomy would consist of and what the side effects were, and he said I had a choice, that I could either have a hysterectomy or I could have just the radiation and chemo, but because of my age, he suggested that I have the hysterectomy since I'd already had 2 kids and I wasn't planning on having any more. He said that would probably be the best route. So of course, I said yes and decided to go with the hysterectomy. And then he told me that I would have it done 4 days later. So that was another big shock. So I went home to call my family and my friends and tell everybody, that I did indeed have cancer and what stage it was at, and that soon I would have to have a hysterectomy. And that was the next big emotional moment for me, realizing that I did have cancer and this was happening to me, and this is what's gonna happen, and I don't have a choice. So over the next few days, I spent making arrangements, calling people, and getting everything ready. And it kind of felt like at first everything was hurry up and wait, hurry up and wait, hurry up and wait. And it just seemed like months of waiting and waiting and waiting, and then all of a sudden it was like everything was happening at once, and I couldn't stop, and it was like I want to get off this ride and catch my breath. And then I had so many thoughts about what am I going to do, what's going to happen to me, how's this going to affect my relationships, is Nick going to want to stay with me? Is he going to want to deal with all this? I mean, it's a lot for anybody to deal with. And, how am I going to feel? I mean, yeah, I didn't want to have any more kids, but it still felt like, something was being taken away from me. And I didn't really have a choice in it. That, a part of my womanhood, so to speak, was being taken. And there wasn't much I could do about it. And then I thought, am I going to live? Is it going to spread somewhere else? Is this going to be it? And, what's going to happen when I'm in surgery? Am I going to wake up? Am I going to be okay? Is this going to change me emotionally, physically? And I felt angry because I didn't have a choice. I felt sad because I felt like I was losing a piece of myself. I felt relieved because they found it and they could fix it. I felt scared because I didn't know what was going to happen. And it was just a lot of emotions. And I had good days and bad days. But it seemed like the couple days before the surgery just kind of just went really slow and just dragged. And I felt like I was walking around in a haze, and this wasn't my life anymore. That it had been taken over by something, cancer, and I didn't have any control over it anymore. But soon, the day of my surgery arrived, and it was my big day. Time to go get everything removed, apparently. So it was off to the hospital.